Have you ever stopped to really think about what truly makes you act? That deep human capacity to make choices and shape our world. Because in an age increasingly defined by artificial intelligence, that question has taken on a whole new urgency. We're truly on the cusp of, profound shifts in how we live, work, and interact. Welcome to the Deep Dive. This is where we take a stack of information, pull out the most important nuggets of knowledge, and really help you become truly well-informed. Today, we're embarking on a deep dive into human and AI agency science. Our sources explore what it means to have agency, that capacity to make choices and act, both for us, humans, and for, artificial intelligence. We'll unpack how these two very different types of agents interact, the profound impacts they're already having, on society and our planet, and crucially, how we might steer this emerging future to benefit human flourishing and create maybe a more balanced universe. It's not just about understanding the tech, it's about seeing ourselves in a whole new light, really. So let's kick things off by defining what agency really means for us, for humans.
At its core, agency is our capacity to make choices and then actually bring them to life in the world. It's what sets us apart from something like, say, a comet just happening to hit a planet. It's the bedrock of moral responsibility, isn't it? We can ask if a human action should have occurred, but you can't ask that of a natural event.
That's a great starting point. And in philosophy, particularly action theory, agency is deeply linked to intentionality, meaning our actions are caused by our mental states, our beliefs, our reasons.
Right.
It's a subtle but important distinction from that whole free will debate. Free will kind of grapples with whether our choices are truly independent, cosmically. Agency just makes a more practical claim. Humans do make decisions and act on them. That gives our lives a moral dimension, makes us accountable.
And psychology gives us a more granular view of how that happens internally. It's almost like our internal guidance system. Social psychologist Albert Bandura, he outlined 4 core functions of human agency. It's not just about making one choice, but this continuous internal feedback loop. We form intentions, we use forethought to set goals, anticipate outcomes, we engage in self-reactiveness to sort of adjust ourselves to our own standards, and finally, self-reflectiveness, where we look at our own effectiveness and make changes. It's that ongoing cycle that truly defines human agency, makes us adaptable, accountable.
Yeah, building on that, self-determination theory, or SDT, adds another really interesting layer. It suggests our drive for agency is fueled by 3 innate psychological needs. Autonomy, that desire to be the, causal agent of your own life. Competence, the need to feel effective in what you do, and relatedness, feeling connected to others. And what's crucial here, I think, is that for agency to really thrive, for it to be a healthy expression, it depends heavily on a supportive social environment. If those fundamental needs are thwarted, our motivation can just, evaporate. Leads to feelings of alienation.
And cognitive science refines this even further. It notes the difference between the low-level feeling of agency, that almost subconscious buzz of control we get during voluntary actions, and the higher level judgment of agency, which is when we consciously attribute an action to ourselves.
Right. Like the difference between just riding a bike smoothly and thinking, wow, I nailed that turn.
Exactly. But here's the really intriguing detail. Our sense of agency isn't infallible. It's actively constructed by the brain, and it can actually be divorced from objective reality. Like the exaggerated sense of control gamblers often feel, even when they're just rolling dice. It's fascinating.
And this human agency, it never exists in a vacuum, right? Sociology highlights what's called the structure agency debate. It looks at how our individual capacity to act interacts dynamically with these recurrent social patterns, institutions, think laws, cultural norms.
It's two-way street then.
Absolutely. Structures shape us, sure, but we, through our individual and collective actions, can challenge and remake those structures. This helps us understand why acts of, say, resistance in oppressive environments are such powerful forms of agency, or even how people excel within really challenging systems.
What truly blew my mind in the research for this was the neurobiological twist on agency. It almost makes you question if you're truly in charge sometimes, doesn't it?
You mean the Libet experiments?
Yes. Benjamin Libet's experiments and the research that followed identified something called the readiness potential, or RP. This is a buildup of electrical activity in the brain that begins hundreds of milliseconds before a person even reports the conscious awareness of their intention to act.
The implication there is profound. Our conscious experience of agency, that feeling of I initiating an action, might actually be a narrative constructed after the fact by the unconscious brain.
Wow. So what does that mean practically?
Well, if our sense of being in control is at least partly a post hoc story, It means our decisions can be subtly shaped, kind of nudged, by external stimuli without our full awareness. And this opens a really interesting, maybe slightly worrying, door for AI to influence us at a preconscious level, almost bypassing our conscious filter. And another crucial point to remember, there isn't one single universal human agency that AI designers can just plug into their systems.
Because it's cultural.
Exactly. It's culturally modulated.
Yeah.
An AI designed to maximize individual choice might totally clash with a collectivistic culture's need for group harmony, for example. So for AI to truly integrate well, its design has got to be deeply context-aware.
And it's that very complexity of human agency that makes the emergence of this other, completely different kind of agent so fascinating, the AI agent, born not of biology, but of code.
Right. A software system that uses AI to perceive its environment, reason, plan, and autonomously perform tasks for specific goals. They're really built on the foundation of, large language models, multimodal processing, that kind of thing.
It's important to draw a clear line, though, isn't it, between these advanced AI agents and simpler tech.
Oh, absolutely. Think of basic bots. They just follow predefined rules, purely reactive. Then you have AI assistants like Siri or Alexa. They're more advanced. Sure, they understand natural language, do simple tasks, but they still need your direct instruction and approval for anything significant.
Right. They wait for you.
Exactly. AI agents, however, represent the highest level of autonomy we have right now. They are proactive, goal-oriented. They can perform complex, multi-step actions without direct instruction. They learn, they adapt, make independent decisions to achieve their goal.
And their core capabilities really hit the big four: reasoning, planning, memory, and that ability to self-refine.
And what's really key here is understanding that the purpose of an AI agent is directly encoded in its architecture. It's like a ladder of complexity.
Okay, walk us through that.
Well, you start with simple reflex agents just reacting immediately, like a thermostat. Then model-based reflex agents, like a robot vacuum cleaner, mapping its environment. Next up, goal-based agents, like your GPS, trying to get you somewhere. Then utility-based agents, which optimize for multiple factors, balancing speed, cost, safety, maybe. And finally, learning agents, which continuously improve their own performance. Think of a recommendation engine on an e-commerce site getting better at suggesting stuff you'll actually like. This architectural hierarchy reveals a critical truth. The ethical and societal impact of an AI is fundamentally tied to its design and the purpose embedded within it.
Like the paperclip maximizer.
Exactly, that classic thought experiment. An AI, given a simple goal, make paperclips, might, in its relentless pursuit of optimization, eventually convert the entire planet into paperclips. It sounds absurd, but it illustrates the point. Which is why the vital question becomes, who defines utility for these systems? Is it purely profit? Or does it include societal well-being, fairness, sustainability? This isn't just theory. It's a practical, urgent debate about values that we need to have now.
So if we take a step back and juxtapose these two types of agents, humans and AI, we can truly see the fundamental differences. There's a vast chasm, as one source put it, between biological and programmatic agency.
Absolutely. Human agency comes from millions of years of biological evolution. It's driven by innate needs, survival, psychological drives for autonomy, connection. Our decision-making is, well, messy but powerful. A blend of fast, intuitive thinking, system 1, and slower, logical thinking, system 2. And yeah, we're prone to cognitive biases.
We learn slowly, too,
Yeah.
experientially. Need rest.
Right. And our ethical frameworks are a mix of innate empathy and learned norms, very situational. In stark contrast, AI agency is deliberately programmed. Its purpose is external, defined by creators through goals or utility functions. Its decision-making is purely logical, data-driven, and importantly, devoid of genuine emotion or understanding.
Learn super fast, though.
Super fast, from vast data sets. But its error profile includes things like algorithmic biases baked in from that data, hallucinations making things up, and a complete lack of common sense. They're ethical frameworks. Just programmed rules or calculations, no true moral comprehension. And unlike humans, who can reshape social structures, AI agents, at least for now, are tools. They tend to amplify existing power structures and the intentions of their creators, rather than being neutral players.
Okay, now that we've got a better handle on the distinct natures of human and artificial agents, let's turn to how they interact. Because this isn't just about a user operating a tool anymore, is it? It feels like the emergence of a complex symbiotic system where humans and AI really work together.
That's right. And the most foundational model we see is human in the loop, or HITL. This is where human intelligence is actively integrated into the AI's development and operation. Humans act as teachers, supervisors.
Labeling data, checking predictions.
Exactly. Providing labeled data, evaluating predictions, giving feedback. Essentially, machines handle the scale while humans provide the nuanced judgment and, hopefully, the ethical oversight.
But the drive for efficiency pushes us further, right? Leading to human-agent teaming, or HAT.
Yes, HAT is kind of the next level. Here, humans and autonomous agents work as interdependent partners, true teammates. But for this to work effectively, AI needs what we could call social-like capabilities.
Like what?
Well, things like observability, transparency of its status and intentions, predictability, behaving reliably so you know what to expect, and directability, understanding high-level instructions without needing every tiny step spelled out.
That makes sense. You need to be able to rely on your teammate.
Precisely. And the critical bridge between simply having humans in the loop and truly teaming with AI is trust. You can't effectively team up with an agent whose decision-making is a complete mystery, a black box.
Which brings us to explainable AI, XAI.
Exactly. XAI is so critical here. It aims to open the black box of complex AI, providing transparent and understandable explanations for its behavior. And what's fascinating now is how large language models are creating new possibilities for more human-centric narrative explanations instead of just spitting out technical jargon.
So what does this all mean for us, practically speaking? It sounds like XAI is non-negotiable.
Pretty much. Without robust XAI, we face a stark choice. Either we halt the adoption of powerful AI because we can't trust it, or we deploy it in a state of low trust, high risk, and significant vulnerability. XAI isn't just a nice-to-have feature. It's the enabling technology for productive and safe human-AI collaboration. It's essential. And, to really understand how AI will impact human society, we first need to grasp the deep-seated rules that govern our own social interaction. Human society, built on cooperation among non-relatives, is actually an evolutionary anomaly. It's been a real puzzle for natural selection. How did we get here?
Right, because usually cooperation is based on being related. In selection.
Exactly. Or sometimes it's direct reciprocity, the classic "I'll scratch your back if you scratch mine" principle, which, as game theory, like the iterated prisoner's dilemma shows, only really works if there's a shadow of the future, meaning you expect to interact with that person again.
But in big societies, you don't always know who you'll meet again.
Precisely. And that's where indirect reciprocity comes in. Reputation becomes key. It allows cooperation to spread far beyond direct one-on-one interactions. Language and morality likely co-evolve to support this.
But human history also shows us the dark side. Conflict. We're very good at that too.
Sadly, yes. Think about social identity theory. It explains how our self-concept often comes from group membership, our in-groups, and that naturally leads to favoritism towards us and discrimination against them, the out-groups.
The classic us versus them.
And then there's realistic conflict theory. The famous Robbers Cave experiment showed this brilliantly. Intergroup hostility often arises from real competition for scarce resources, jobs, land, status. The powerful solution to this, by the way, discovered in that same experiment, is finding superordinate goals, big shared objectives that require mutual cooperation between groups.
Okay, so you have these ancient dynamics of cooperation and conflict, and now you introduce AI agents. This isn't just a small tweak, is it?
Not at all. It's a fundamental change to the rules of the game. AI agents are poised to become incredibly powerful arbiters of both reputation and scarcity.
Also,
Well, think about the positive potential first. An AI could theoretically be a global, incorruptible reputation ledger. Imagine. It could foster unprecedented cooperation via indirect reciprocity on a truly planetary scale, build massive trust.
that sounds amazing. But the flip side,
The flip side is concerning. The same technology could define social group boundaries with chilling precision. You can see hints of this in nascent social credit systems. And it could manage access to scarce resources, think jobs, loans, social benefits, in ways that trigger intense, potentially global conflict.
so the big question becomes, what purpose do we build into these agents?
Exactly. The purpose we embed in an AI agent isn't just a technical specification. It's deeply political and sociological. The stakes are existential. Are we going to design AI to unite humanity around superordinate goals? Or will we design it to optimize outcomes for specific in-groups, creating ever more intense zero-sum competition? That's the choice.
And this isn't some far-off future scenario. The introduction of AI agents is happening now. We're already seeing tangible impacts reshaping critical domains of society. Let's try and analyze the real-world impact through the perspective of, say, the average hardworking, family-oriented individuals. What's happening in the economic sphere, finance, industry.
Okay, well, applications are everywhere. Algorithmic and high-frequency trading, robo-advisory services, fraud detection, automated credit scoring.
And who benefits most there?
Primarily, it's the financial institutions, capital owners, tech-savvy investors who can leverage these tools. But for the average human, there's definitely the risk of job displacement for analysts, traders, loan officers, and maybe more fundamentally, facing biased loan algorithms that might unfairly deny credit based on flawed data or proxies.
And we've seen those systemic risks too, right? Like flash crashes.
Absolutely. Cascading algorithmic decisions can destabilize markets in seconds, jeopardizing people's retirement savings, their 401ks, in a heartbeat. It's a real vulnerability.
Okay, what about the social sphere? Healthcare, education. AI agents promise more personalized services there.
They do. In healthcare, you see AI for diagnosis, suggesting treatment options, automating administrative tasks, freeing up doctors. In education, there are personalized learning platforms, automated grading, tools to improve accessibility for students with disabilities.
The benefits seem clear. Maybe more accurate diagnoses, more engaged physicians, students getting individualized attention, institutions saving money.
Yes, those are the potential upsides. But the disadvantages can fall heavily on vulnerable individuals. Their data could be misused. Patients might be harmed by biased medical advice if the AI learned from skewed data. Students could become hindered by over-reliance on AI, losing critical thinking skills. And then there's the digital divide. These benefits might just exacerbate existing inequalities, leaving some people even further behind.
And perhaps the most profound impacts, or at least the most discussed, are happening in the civic sphere. Social cohesion. Democracy.
Yeah, it's really paradoxical with social cohesion. On one hand, AI can connect us globally, but on the other, algorithms optimizing purely for engagement often create echo chambers and filter bubbles.
Which drives polarization.
Exactly. It accelerates political polarization, erodes our shared sense of reality, erodes trust in institutions and each other. And biased data baked into these systems can amplify harmful stereotypes without us even realizing it.
And when we look at democracy itself, the threats seem pretty direct. Deepfakes, targeted misinformation.
Those are major concerns. But there's something maybe even more insidious. It's not just being persuaded by fake content. It's the potential for a pervasive, deep-seated skepticism where citizens just lose the ability to believe anything is true.
A kind of truth decay.
Precisely. And that corrodes democratic deliberation at its very core. If we can't agree on basic facts, how can we have a meaningful debate? And of course, alongside that, you have the potential for supercharged state and corporate surveillance, which poses a huge threat to free speech and fundamental freedoms.
What about using AI in, say, leadership selection, evaluating candidates?
That's a classic dual-use tool situation. On one hand, you could imagine an AI as a civic utility fact-checking candidates' claims, promoting informed debate. That sounds good. But on the other hand, the same capabilities could be used for incredibly sophisticated, psychologically manipulative political advertising, targeting individual voters' vulnerabilities.
So the purpose embedded in that AI becomes absolutely critical. Is it for civic good or for manipulation?
It's a fundamental ethical decision right there. And there's a broader pattern emerging across all these areas we've discussed. AI's relentless drive for efficiency often seems to come at the expense of resilience.
What do you mean by that?
Well, a hyper-efficient financial system becomes brittle, more vulnerable to those flash crashes. A hyper-efficient information ecosystem, designed solely to maximize engagement or clicks, becomes fragile and incredibly susceptible to the rapid spread of misinformation or harmful content.
So we optimize for one thing and lose robustness elsewhere.
Exactly. It raises a really important question for AI design. The purpose of an AI agent needs to expand beyond pure, narrow optimization. It has to include preserving and enhancing systemic resilience, especially for the average person. It's about building systems that don't just perform well under normal conditions, but can also withstand shocks and failures, protecting us from those cascading failures.
This connects directly to our listener's query about a balanced universe. Our discussion needs to extend to our most fundamental context, the natural world, the Earth itself. Technology isn't neutral in how it shapes our view of nature, is it?
Not at all. The philosopher Martin Heidegger had this concept of enframing Gestell. It's how modern technology tends to make everything appear as standing reserve or be stand. Basically, a resource just waiting to be optimized and exploited.
So a river isn't just a river, it's potential hydroelectric power. A forest is just board feet of timber.
Precisely. And you could argue that AI is the ultimate manifestation of this inframing worldview. It sees the entire world as a vast data set to be optimized according to some utility function. And as the political theorist Langdon Winner argued, artifacts have politics. AI design isn't neutral, it embeds political and economic choices.
Like precision agriculture.
Good example. AI-powered precision agriculture might favor large agribusinesses with the capital to invest, potentially marginalizing small farms. It might also push towards monocultures because they're easier to manage algorithmically, reducing biodiversity. AI fundamentally alters our relationship with nature, accelerating that shift from maybe stewardship or partnership towards calculated resource management. Everything becomes a number to be crunched and optimized.
But this inframing, this optimization drive, has real physical consequences. The ecological footprint of AI is significant and often hidden.
It really is. Let's talk about the costs. First, there's massive energy consumption. Training just one large AI model can consume hundreds of megawatt hours. That's like the annual energy use of hundreds of homes.
Wow. And just using it, like asking ChatGPT a question.
Even a single generative AI query can use maybe 5 to 10 times more electricity than a standard Google search. It adds up incredibly fast. Then there's water consumption. Data centers need massive cooling. Estimates suggest a typical ChatGPT conversation of 20-50 questions uses about half a liter of water, directly or indirectly. Globally, AI's water withdrawal could exceed half the UK's annual total by 2027. That puts huge strain on water resources, especially in arid regions where many data centers are located.
And then there's the hardware itself.
Right. Significant e-waste from the rapid hardware replacement cycles, plus the resource extraction needed for chips, servers, rare earth minerals, copper, and so on. It's a big physical footprint.
Okay, so those are the costs. But AI can also help with environmental problems, can't it?
Absolutely. Its incredible data analysis capacity offers powerful tools for environmental solutions. We see clear benefits in environmental monitoring using satellites, drones, sensors to track deforestation, pollution, ice melt. It can help with biodiversity conservation, identifying species, tracking animal populations, even combating illegal wildlife trafficking by analyzing trade data.
And resource optimization.
Yes, it's amazing for resource optimization, making energy grids more efficient, reducing waste in supply chains, perfecting precision agriculture to use less water and fertilizer, improving recycling processes. But, and this is the paradox, this creates what we might call the Heideggerian loop, meaning AI's environmental problems often stem directly from that inframing logic, that drive to optimize everything as a resource. Yet our proposed solutions rely on using more AI, employing that very same optimization logic. We're sort of trapped in this cycle of using technology to solve problems that technology itself helped create, without questioning the underlying worldview.
So, achieving a truly balanced universe, as our listener put it, requires breaking out of this loop somehow.
It does. It demands fundamentally rethinking AI's utility functions. We need to move beyond narrow optimization, like just maximizing crop yield, full stop.
Towards something broader, more holistic.
Exactly. A truly sustainable AI agent's utility function would need to be far more complex. It would need to balance yield not just with short-term profit, but also with long-term soil health, water conservation, biodiversity, maybe even the economic viability of local farmers. Multi-objective optimization. If we connect this to the bigger picture, a truly balanced universe requires imbuing AI agents with a fundamentally new purpose, one that reflects a deeper wisdom. Human health is utterly inseparable from planetary health. The ultimate challenge isn't really technical, it's philosophical and cultural. It's about how we fundamentally value our world and encode those values into our most powerful tools.
Okay, so navigating this future successfully requires more than just technological fixes. It demands robust governance, a clear ethical compass, and a conscious effort to cultivate a culture that puts human flourishing and ecological balance right at the center.
Definitely. And when it comes to ethics for AI, no single ethical theory is going to be enough on its own. We really need a hybrid approach.
Right. So what are the pieces of that hybrid approach?
Well, we can start with deontology, or duty-based ethics. Think of it as providing absolute guardrails for AI systems, clear rules. It would say things like, an AI agent shall not generate illegal hate speech, or no unconsented data use, must not infringe human rights.
Its strength is those clear principles. But the downside?
The limitation is rigidity. Sometimes duties conflict and it doesn't handle nuance as well. Then there's consequentialism, focusing on outcomes. This is really the native language of most current AI. It's designed to maximize some utility function like public health outcomes or energy efficiency.
Strength.
Yeah.
Large-scale optimization. Weakness.
The weakness is that it might potentially harm minorities or ignore individual rights in pursuit of the greater good. Plus, defining what utility or good outcome actually means is often really contested. Whose utility?
Okay, so duties and outcomes. What's the third leg?
Virtue ethics. This shifts the focus away from rules or outcomes and towards cultivating a virtuous ecosystem among the humans involved, the developers, designers, deployers, users. Now, we can't code a machine to be virtuous like a human, but this framework encourages designing systems that embody virtues like fairness, trustworthiness, transparency, responsibility, but in a flexible, context-aware way.
So it relies more on human judgment within the system.
Exactly. Its strength is that contextual, nuanced judgment. Its limitation is that it can seem vague, and it's harder to translate directly into concrete code or verifiable rules compared to the other two.
Can you give an example of how these might clash or work together?
Sure, let's use that classic dilemma. Imagine a power grid AI during a severe heat wave. It needs to reduce load to prevent a citywide blackout. Option A is initiating rolling blackouts, but the schedule includes a critical hospital. Option B is doing nothing, risking a catastrophic, uncontrolled collapse affecting everyone, including the hospital.
Okay, so deontology.
Deontology might rigidly forbid cutting power to the hospital based on a duty to preserve life, potentially leading to the worst outcome of total collapse.
Consequentialism.
Consequentialism would likely calculate that the rolling blackouts, even hitting the hospital, cause less overall harm than total collapse, so it would initiate them to maximize overall utility, keeping power on for most people.
And virtue ethics, how does that play in?
Well, a system designed with virtue ethics principles, likely involving human oversight, would seek a more nuanced middle path. It wouldn't just blindly follow a rule or maximize a number. It would prioritize communication with human operators, explore options like rerouting power to critical hospital circuits while shedding load elsewhere, maybe communicate proactively with the public. It seeks a wiser, more responsible solution. It highlights why that human judgment and oversight remains so crucial, especially in high-stakes situations.
As these AI agents become more autonomous, their actions inevitably create a huge legal challenge, what some call the liability gap. When an AI causes harm, say, a self-driving car accident, who exactly is responsible?
Yeah, our existing legal frameworks really struggle with this. Proving negligence is tough because the AI is often a black box, making errors hard to foresee or trace back to a specific design flaw. Product liability has been historically unclear for software, although new regulations like the EU AI Act are starting to address this, treating AI more like other products.
And criminal liability seems almost impossible, right? Attributing mens rea, a guilty mind, to a machine.
Exactly, it just doesn't fit. And this liability gap has fueled a pretty provocative debate about maybe granting some form of legal personhood to AI.
Like corporations have.
Kind of. Proponents argue that legal fictions like corporate personhood have solved practical problems in the past by providing a clear entity that can be held liable, enter contracts, own property, etc. Maybe AI needs something similar.
But the opponents have strong arguments, too.
Very strong. They warn it's a dangerous fiction. AI lacks consciousness, genuine moral agency, or even assets to pay damages. Holding it responsible is ultimately meaningless. Worse, it could easily become a legal shield, protecting the actual human creators, deployers, or owners from accountability. And many feel it fundamentally erodes human dignity to equate machines with persons. The consensus seems to be leaning towards maintaining clear human accountability. Someone human must be responsible.
So with all that complexity in mind, what are the actionable pathways forward? How do we build a healthy, normal, prosperous human AI society? Let's break it down. Technical, policy, educational recommendations.
Okay. On the technical side, first, we absolutely need to mandate robust and human-centric explainable AI, XAI, for all high-stakes systems. Transparency has to be a baseline.
Agreed. What else?
Second, we must shift focus from just technical alignment, making sure the AI does what it's told, towards genuine value alignment, getting the AI to pursue goals that are actually beneficial for humanity. This requires designing much more sophisticated, multi-objective utility functions that explicitly balance efficiency with things like resilience, equity, environmental sustainability. It's much harder, but essential.
And culturally sensitive AI.
Yes. Third, we need to develop cultural customization protocols. We need to avoid that cultural uncanny valley where an AI seems human-like, but its actions are subtly, or maybe not so subtly, inappropriate for a specific cultural context, causing friction and mistrust. This means going way beyond just language translation. It requires a deep understanding of local norms, values, communication styles, like the differences between individualistic and collectivistic cultures.
Okay, moving to policy and legal recommendations. Clear liability frameworks seem key.
Absolutely. Establish clear and fair liability frameworks, but firmly avoid the trap of AI personhood. Keep the accountability clearly on human actors, developers, manufacturers, owners, operators, depending on the context. We also must aggressively protect human agency and privacy. This means strong data privacy laws like GDPR and beyond, and very heavy regulation, maybe even bans, on AI use in certain sensitive areas like democratic processes, mass public surveillance, and social scoring systems. Safeguarding core freedoms is paramount.
And using AI for good.
Governments should actively incentivize AI for the public good. They need to fund and direct AI development towards tackling those big, superordinate goals. We talked about climate change mitigation, pandemic preparedness, sustainable development goals. Imagine AI genuinely deployed as a tool for global cooperation and problem solving, rather than primarily for corporate profit or state control. That requires public investment and direction.
Finally, let's talk educational and cultural recommendations. AI literacy seems crucial.
Hugely important. We need to foster widespread AI and data literacy across the population. People need to understand, at a basic level, how AI works, its inherent biases, its environmental costs, its limitations like those hallucinations or confidently wrong answers, and crucially, the importance of critically evaluating and verifying AI-generated information. Don't just trust it blindly.
And culturally, how should we frame our relationship with AI?
We absolutely need to champion a human-in-command culture. The narrative shouldn't be about AI replacing humans, but about AI augmenting humans, enhancing our judgment, creativity, empathy, and overall flourishing. The AI's purpose must always remain tethered to human goals and values. Humans should remain in control.
And connecting back to the environment.
Yes, and perhaps most fundamentally, for that balanced universe, we must cultivate a truly balanced relationship with nature within our technological designs. This means consciously designing AI with a core purpose that respects ecological limits and fosters stewardship. We need to leverage AI specifically for things like regenerative agriculture, circular economies, biodiversity protection, scaling renewable energy. It's about making AI part of the solution for planetary health, not just another part of the problem, being truly symbiotic with our planet.
Wow. That was an incredible journey today, really. We've gone from the deep philosophical roots of human agency all the way to the cutting edge of AI's capabilities. We've explored how these two forces are reshaping our economy, our society, our culture, and even our planet itself. We've looked at the amazing opportunities, but also the really profound ethical and practical challenges they present.
And if we try to connect this all back to the bigger picture, the ultimate challenge facing us isn't really technical at all, is it? It's philosophical and cultural. It's fundamentally about redefining the very purpose of our most powerful tools, these emerging artificial agents. Redefining that purpose to help us cultivate a more sustainable and ultimately, I think, a more prosperous and meaningful relationship with nature and, crucially, with each other. It's about consciously, deliberately embedding deep human values, wisdom, compassion, foresight, a respect for limits, not just narrow optimization metrics, into the very core of AI's design. That's how we ensure our most powerful creations actually contribute to, rather than detract from, the long-term health and flourishing of our planetary home for generations to come.
So a final thought for you, our listener. What stood out to you most in this deep dive? How might you reconsider the AI tools you interact with every day, now knowing the complex purposes and values potentially embedded within them? We really encourage you to keep asking those questions, keep digging deeper, and stay engaged in this vital conversation about our shared future.
This is DigitView.